Texas Governor Greg Abbott not letting State House Democrats get away with breaking quorum after more than 50 of them fled the state to avoid a vote on the newly drawn state district map. He's now ordering law enforcement to arrest the lawmakers and threatening to vacate their seats. Those House Democrats fleeing to places like Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts, gathering support from U.S. lawmakers who joined in on all the drama. Watch.
You can gerrymander the hell out of that map. Guess what? Two can play that game.
We are ready to bring the fire, bring the heat. Our sleeves are rolled up, and we're ready to take this fight.
So what is happening here is the most blatant, racist disregard for the voters of Texas.
Texas Democrats broke quorum because sometimes the only way to uphold your oath is to refuse to play along with the rigged game.
We are going to match Donald Trump's energy when it comes to redistricting.
They expect Democrats to kind of be the nice guys that we are. They expect us to take the punch and say thank you. Well, I am here to tell you not only are we going to punch back, but we're about to beat you down.
Blue state governors Kathy Hochul and Gavin Newsom both threatening their own redistricting efforts should the Texas map be redrawn. I want to bring in Texas Congressman Pat Fallon. He's a member of the House Oversight, Armed Services and Intelligence Committees and the chairman of the Military Personnel Subcommittee. Congressman, good morning to you. A lot of news coming out of the Lone Star State over the last 48 hours. Of course, now with Abbott saying he wants them arrested. What do you make of all of this, and how do you feel about this idea of redrawing the Texas map now when normally it's once a decade, but it's a little soon? Of course, President Trump wants to see this happen.
Cheryl, I am glad that you asked. I have a lot to say. I served in the Texas House for 6 years and the Texas Senate for 2. This is simply a game of math. And this is why the Democrats don't want to talk about this, by the way, when they talk about gerrymandering, they're actually extraordinarily good at it. In 2024, Republican candidates for Congress received 5 million more votes than Democratic candidates, and yet the Democrats almost took the House because they're so effective at gerrymandering. Case in point, when you look at the top 5 blue states that are controlled completely by Democrats, and that would be California, Washington, New York, New Jersey, and what was the last one? And Illinois. And when you look at that, they have 93 Democratic seats to 24 Republican seats. Now you look at the 5 red states, Texas, Ohio, Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee, and Republicans control 72 seats to 32. So that's almost an 80% to 20% on the Democratic side and 71 to 29 on the Republican side. So, all right, so 70-30. So they're 10% better at gerrymandering. And even with this new map, they still have a 5% edge. So when they're talking about gerrymandering, they're being hypercritical, if you will.
Well, and that's why the rhetoric from Governor Hochul and Governor Newsom has so been interesting to watch. I want you to listen to Governor Hochul yesterday and the rhetoric that she's using about what's happening in Texas as these lawmakers came up to New York yesterday. Watch this.
What Texas and Republican states are doing at the direction of Donald Trump, I say, is nothing short of a legal insurrection against our capital. Legal meaning they're using the legal process. Does not mean it's legal. They're leaving us no choice. We must do the same.
And later she talked about the threat to democracy. But, you know, the editorial board of the Journal points out, and this is what you just said, look, both sides do it. They point out Massachusetts, the delegation of the House, it's 9-0 for Democrats. Trump won 36% of the vote last year in the state of Massachusetts. But they make an interesting point, and I want to ask you this. They say a party that goes too far with gerrymandering thins out its margins in safe seats to try to win more overall, but you take a risk of a wave election wipeout. What do you make of that?
No, if you do it let's say too effectively, it can bite you on the backside in future elections. The point is, it's incredible that Governor Hochul would say that when New York State is 19 Democrats to 7 Republicans, President Trump came within nearly 10 points in that state. And they fled to Chicago, which is a fascinating choice. I mean, granted, they're getting out of the Texas heat, but that state gerrymandered 14 Democratic seats and left only 3 Republican. And President Trump was in single digits in 2024 in Illinois. New Jersey is now a battleground state, and that's 9-3. That's 75 to 25 as far as their delegation goes. So they were extraordinarily effective at gerrymandering in 2020 or 2024. Well, in 2020, and then in 2024, we should have about 233 seats when you win by 5 million votes. Statisticians will tell you, give or take a couple, and it was only 220. This is just trying to even the scales a little more, and it still gives them a weighted advantage going into 26. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth.
What do you now make about this move to create a federal law that you can only do redistricting every 10 years, which is normally how it's traditionally been done? But now there's this now there's push to say, okay, enough of the shenanigans. Let's make it every 10 years. Would you support something like that?
I wouldn't have it really much of a problem with it. Right now, that's not what it says, but I don't think that federal law is really going to get off the ground, to be honest. And I just have to say, too, Cheryl, that California with Newsom, you want to talk about, remember the nickname of Bill Clinton, Slick Willie? This guy is just, he's slick on steroids. California, they have a quote-unquote independent commission that magically drew 52 congressional districts, and 43 of them were won by Democrats, which is 83%. And yet he wants to talk about redistricting. Him, Hochul, and the fellow up in Illinois should just zip it.
Before you go, I need you to put your military hat on here for just a moment, sir. I've got another question for you, because Russia and China are doing these joint military drills over in the Sea of Japan. This is a strategic partnership, and this is just 2 days after the president put those 2 nuclear submarines to the, quote, appropriate regions. And, of course, the response to threats from those remarks from former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, Congressman. You've pointed out the military threat by the Kremlin and Beijing. You wrote this on X. Russia and China have heavily invested in hypersonic missile capabilities to try and negate the U.S. military's advantage in air and sea power. We need to ensure the U.S. is focused on employing the right AI technology to counter this looming threat and maintain deterrence abroad. So can you expand on this for us?
Yeah, 20 years ago, Cheryl, we had such a great advantage that we were a little bit, we weren't focused and we didn't keep our eye on the ball. We spent $4,000 billion, AKA $4 trillion, in Iraq and Afghanistan, and that really didn't get us much. It was bad. It was money poorly spent. And in the meantime, China and Russia developed hypersonics technology. That's why we're behind, because we just didn't continue to embrace technology in that regard. China's shipbuilding capabilities right now, they're building about 65% of the world's ships. The United States is building 0.1%. They have 35 shipyards. We have 4. So, yes, is our Navy more effective than China's and Russia's combined right now? It is. But what's that going to look like in a mere 5 years? And that's what's concerning, and that's why we need to hyper-focus on, and I did like the pivot to Asia that President Bush talked about, because that's where, the really the looming dangers of the United States and our interests lie.
Yeah. Congressman Pat Fallon, it's always great to have you on the show. Come back anytime.
Thanks, Cheryl. God bless.
All right. Thank you, sir.